Nathaniel W. Martin. Here's Reverend Martin.
All right, thank you, Dr. Blackwell. Let me say Hotep Habarigani. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, but certainly never good night and never ever goodbye, because I always find goodbyes traumatizing. I said I find goodbyes traumatizing. My name is the Reverend Nathaniel Wayne Martin. I'm the pastor of the New Life Institutional Baptist Church here in the city of Los Angeles, and we are worshiping with ours and being hosted by our sister church, the Shiloh Missionary Christian Church at 8916 South Main. Shiloh Missionary Christian Church is pastored by my good friend, the Reverend Dr. Della F. Hollis. And you know, they always say when the Baptists and the Charismatics get together, there's always going to be a shouting in the camp. So we welcome you to worship with us at any and all of our services. The offering the presentation which you are viewing right now is more in a social justice catalog or department, because we don't live in a vacuum and you can't practice Christianity in a bubble. You're going to have to be out here with everybody and try to serve the Lord to the best of your ability. That's with all of the haters and all of the those that love you, and those that are helping you, and those that are hindering you. But it takes all of that to get you ready for heaven. And please believe me, if the old saying, if God will keep you humble, the folk will sure keep you poor. You got to fight the good fight, and you're going to have many battles, many bruises, and by the time you get to heaven, you'll be ready to go. Thank God for His saving power and the power of His grace that allows us to stand, as the Apostle Paul said, against the wiles of the devil, for they are many and varied. And at our church, we are now studying on Wednesday nights the book of Acts, working our way through from chapter 1, and we've arrived at chapter 20 and 21, but yet we see how the church was always starting on a high and then being plunged into a low. It was started out with great rejoicing on the day of Pentecost, but after that, of course, the opposition began to manifest itself, because the devil don't like you to be no Christian. He's sure not going to give you no easy ride. And so arm yourselves, as the scripture says, in order to withstand, all right, and having done all to stand. I'm not a journalist, and I'm not a news reporter. I'm basically a Baptist preacher. That's what I was starting out. That's what I've been all my life. All my preaching life. And we thank God for His ability to speak through us and to us. But I'm not a journalist. I do a lot of research, of course, but my research is all historical, and trying to understand better and better, and be able to present a more cogent message, not only to my flock, but also to the world. And that is why we got ourselves involved in this thankless task of broadcasting every Friday evening to the general public. We'll be up on YouTube, and we're on Facebook, and we're on Twitter, and several other platforms. But we encourage you to look at some of our old stuff. We started back in 2017, December 2017, and we've been going ever since. Every episode, of course, is not my greatest episode. I'm kind of ashamed of some of those, but hey, they're out there. and you can look at them and see the content and see our growth or our regression, as the point may be. All right. But on the journalism question, we have when I started out, when I came to California, let me speak from there. It was in 1968, and the changes in the media, in who owned the media and who was producing the media, were already beginning to manifest themselves. When I came here to Los Angeles, you had the LA Times, and you had the Herald Tribune, two great newspapers. Both of them, of course, were hard on black folks, but at least you had two organs. If you didn't like what they said in the LA Times, you could go look at the Herald. And now you only have the one newspaper, which is the LA Times, as the main newspaper. There are other papers that come out weekly, and we thank God for them. But even they have changed their approach due to the consolidation and the mergers that have occurred since the days of Bill Clinton. It was under Bill Clinton that they signed this the new Telecommunications Act, which was signed, I think, in 1996. But prior to that, a newspaper couldn't own a TV station, or a TV station could not own a radio station. So you had a diversity. You had many areas to choose from in your choice of news and information and all like that. But following the passage of the new Telecommunications Act, which made it lawful for the LA Times not only to own a newspaper, but also to own a television station and then own a radio station, and that was forbidden under the old term. But now, with the new money that has been flowing into Wall Street and all of that, then now you have about 6 companies that control the news and control the journalism. And according to what I've been reading, we're losing, since the pandemic started, we've lost 360 newspapers. That means 2 newspapers a day on average, and it was that way. That rate was even before the pandemic set in. So we're losing our ability to have a choice of who to get our news from. We're all being kind of like guided into the same stream. So what you're seeing in New York is what you're seeing in Los Angeles, and unless you get some courageous person like myself, you don't get any local news. You don't get no local news, and we are all being channeled, as it were, into a homogeneous news feed. The news is the same. It leads, it bleeds. Whatever channel if you got a TV, whatever channel you turn to, it's the same story over and over. Even on CNN, it's a 24-hour day news cycle. They can get on a story and work that story into boredom, and with the monotonous repeating and reiterating, as they will do tonight, it's hard to get any fresh facts. And that is because, like I said, with the channeling and with the mergers and the consolidations, like I said, in 1983 you had 50 companies, but now you only got 6. And who are those 6? Let's count them all. You got AT&T, you got Comcast, you got News Corp, you got CBS, you got Viacom, and you got Disney. And those 6 control all of the other outlets, and they're not just news outlets, mind you. They own the NFL, and they own MTV, and so they own HBO, they own Showtime, and so that is what we are being presented with over and over. We're receiving less fresh information. There's no journalism. For example, it was a local newspaper right there in New York that first reported on George Santos, but they reported on it in September. By them being a local paper, the Time didn't pick it up, and the Washington Post didn't pick it up until the election was over. Then all of a sudden they started coming out with all of this news about George Santos. But that news was there in September, because the local newspaper guy by, let's see, what was his name? I don't have his name. His last name was Lally, L-A-L-L-E-Y, and I don't see his first name. But he was the one that broke the story. His name of his newspaper was the North Shore Leader. North Shore Leader. It's like our Herald Tribune, or like our LA Sentinel, or our LA Weekly, or our LA Focus types of magazines, or our Observer. They would a little reporter, editor would, go see a story and develop that story and see if anything was there, and report back to the general public on what they had found. But of course, with all of the money going into the 6 companies, then they are able to pick and choose, like I said, what they want to present. A little broadcast like this doesn't have much choice to get out into the deeper water, but we do it because it's necessary. Somebody's got to speak up, somebody got to say something, and we thank God for this what do you call it, Miracle Media, KTYM, Miracle Productions, and continuing to offer this platform for people like me and others to not only preach the gospel, but talk about current events. Going back to George Santos, the local paper in his area, in his district, had already picked up on that he was not what he said he was. They had already labeled him a fraud, and the remind you, this was a conservative. The paper was owned by a conservative, and but they went on and endorsed the Democrat because they said this Santos is a fraud. But he was able to get elected, and nobody challenged him until it was too late. Now they want him, to resign because he's an embarrassment. But he's been elected now. He's going to get all of the benefits of office and health care and all of that, and per diem, daily per diems and stipends and the like, and that's going to follow him. That's going to he's set himself up to get that until the day he dies. He's not going to be. They're not going to be able to deny him those benefits, and because they come with the office, and by him being a representative of the 3rd district, congressional district, then he's put himself in the game, so to speak, and that's why those people run for those offices, because you get good health care, and it's for life, and I don't know whether you get a pension or anything, but the money the access that they get by being in those offices is what makes them continue to seek those offices. Remember, people would spend $1 billion to get in one of those seats, and so there must be something there. But George Santos was already being outed by the local contractors or builders or developers, because he was riding them around in his car telling them, I own this mansion over here and I own this down in Martha's Vineyard and the Hamptons. But it come to find out that he only rents and how did they say it? They said he has a row house apartment. That's about what he owns. Yes. Here it is. It says his holdings. He has a rented apartment in Queens. Said his parents came from Belgium, but later claimed his his grandparents had to flee Ukraine to stay out the Holocaust. That turned out to be a lie. And how you know it was a lie? Because in 2016 he said his mama died again. So, he's been outed as a fraud, but it's too late now. So he's gotten away with it, it looks like. Oh, here it is. He lives in an attached row house in Queens. I know I wrote that down. An attached row house. That means he lives in a community where every house is attached to the other house. It's kind of like a project, but much nicer, I guess. But he was able to lie his way into the Congress. And I think what sparked it all was apart from this local newspaper, was somebody asking how could a guy that was broke 2 years before all of a sudden come into $11 million. And I mean $11 million. You hear me? And so that's what raised suspicion and caused people, the New York Times and the Washington Post, to start picking up on the rumors, which it wasn't a rumor, it was the truth about George Santos. And we're going to see how that's going to work out, because if Donald Trump could get in, George Santos is going to get in and stay as he is there in representing the 3rd Congressional District in New York. All right? All right. Now, but like I said, all of this came about as a result of the mergers and the consolidation of not only the newsroom, but the entertainment aspect of the media. Because now, when I turn on the GMA, Good Morning America, something like that, or even Meet the Press, I get a lot of commercials, and then the guy is talking entertainment. Even my local news, it's entertainment. It's joking and cracking smiles and everything. You don't get no serious journalism anymore. You get a lot of commercials and very, very little news that you can use. They do a little bit better by us now than, I'm speaking about us, I'm talking about black folks, because they used to didn't put us in the news at all unless one of them was getting lynched or one of them was going to prison, and that really haven't changed that much. But we are covered a little bit, and now you do have some black representation in these newsrooms, on these news programs, I call them. Let me see. I can't think of that guy's name. It was the first when I got here. He even interviewed me one time. He was a black newsman. I'm going to have to think of his name. But he was just that one. He was just that one at Channel 5, I believe. And that's the only one they had when I come here in '68. And Mr. The other newsman, Mr. Dukes, had murdered his wife, so they had put him off the television because he went to prison. But there was not that much black representation in front of those cameras. And I'm still trying to get this guy's name back in my mind before I get through here. I can see his face, but can't get his name right. But anyway, I digress. The point being that the consolidations and the mergers are having a deleterious effect on what news you and I are getting. Because if it's all a national brand, then when you come to Inglewood, you only get a national brand of news. Well, what is happening in Inglewood? You don't know what's happening in Inglewood. You know, you don't know what they're doing on the city council unless you look at the meeting and the like. And so those type of things hurt the community as a whole because we become fragmented and alienated from each other because we don't have any local news associates or information that we could have in common, in other words, so that what's affecting you on your street or what's affecting you in your neighborhood here in Inglewood as it is. And the same for the rest of the communities. And so this is going to have to be brought to our attention, and we're going to have to start acknowledging and first becoming aware and then acknowledge that we cannot be fed from the national trough all day and say that we have been informed. All right? That's all I'm saying. All right. Now the SCOTUS cases. The Supreme Court is dragging its feet on putting out its decision. And I'm certainly waiting on the decision on affirmative action and to see are they going to overturn affirmative action or are they going to further restrict the ability of colleges and universities and other organizations to take race as a factor in how they grant scholarships or grant admission to colleges. Remember, there's always been affirmative action for white people. Harvard is a great example because if you have a member in your family that attended Harvard, well, you can go to Harvard. That accounts toward your ability to go to Harvard because they have what they call a legacy. They don't call it affirmative action, but it's the same thing. They take to the fact that you had a member of your family that went to Harvard and graduated from Harvard, and so that gives you a leg up on me or anybody else if I was to try to go to apply to be received, admitted to study at these high-level institutions. And so these type of cases, one is anxious to see which way the Supreme Court is going to rule. Because remember, you have a conservative court, and they don't like race to be mentioned, although this country was built on race and racism and the like. I go back to what Thurgood Marshall said at the 1987 bicentennial celebration of the Constitution. He said he didn't see where the founding fathers were that astute or wise, and he did not see where the original document that they wrote was that inclusive. 5 minutes, y'all. My time is up. Was that inclusive? Because it took a civil war before they broke the back of slavery. Remember, slavery was the backbone of this nation. Even Dr. Gerald Horne offers this as a counter reason for the establishment of the United States. It wasn't so much for that they believed in liberty, because they only believed in liberty for themselves. Matter of fact, what Thurgood Marshall said, you only have to look at the first 3 words: we the people. Who were the people? We the people. They were landed white folks. In fact, landed slaveholders. As a matter of fact, of course, I don't want to get off my subject, but the original words in the document said that the pursuit of property, the ownership of property. Then they changed it to the pursuit of happiness as a nod toward the general public. But originally, the original Constitution was the pursuit of property, life, liberty, and pursuit of property. That was the original, and it certainly did not include the slaves in the we the people, and it didn't include the Indians in the we the people, and it didn't even include white women in the we the people. It only included those people. Just what Judge Taney opined in his Dred Scott decision, that when he said that the Negro had no rights that the white man was obligated to observe. That's what was in the Constitution. Remember, the Constitution itself was a compromise, whereby the New England settlers were willing to allow the Southerners, the Southerners were willing to go along with the New Englanders in setting up a commerce, because the commerce clause in the Constitution allowed them to continue to traffic in slavery. Remember, it says slavery was supposed to, the import of slaves from Africa was to end in 1804, and that was the compromise that the founding fathers made with each other in order to continue the traffic in human people. And that has been a blemish that is around, like a millstone around the neck of the nation, even to this hour. And so as I wrap up and close out, I want you to remember that we still don't wrestle against flesh and blood. It may not be Donald Trump. It's not George Santos. It's not even Kevin McCarthy. But we wrestle against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, whoever may be animated by that spirit. Against spiritual wickedness in high places. That's why we have to continue to pray, and pray mightily, because our adversary, as a roaring lion, goeth about seeking whom he may devour. And as I wrap it up, I want to thank God for the nurses that went out on strike. And remember, because there's bargaining power in unions. And remember, if you're working on a job and they don't want to pay you, take my advice in the new year, just like I said in 2022, and have been saying since this started. If you are working on a job and they don't want to pay you, take my advice and don't work for them. Thank you, Doc. We out of here. Love you. Hope to see you next week.